Welcome back to our continuing pregame coverage of President Trump's speech to a joint session of Congress. Several Democratic lawmakers at that speech are bringing fired federal workers as an act of protest, protesting what they regard as the president's either reckless or too quick culling of the federal workforce. One of them is Arizona Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego, freshman senator elected in the last campaign. Senator, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining us. Good
evening.
What is your beef with the reductions in the federal workforce? Are you against all reductions to the federal workforce, or is there something specifically you want Elon Musk and President Trump to do that they haven't done so far?
Well, look, I want them to actually be thoughtful about this. For example, some of these reductions in workforce have actually been putting Arizona in danger. They've reduced the amount of workers that are actually clearing our underbrush in northern Arizona. We have had a very dry season. What does that mean? A dry winter season means we're going to have a very, very hot, burning fire season this summer. Now, these young 20, 21-year-old coders from San Francisco don't really understand northern Arizona. They don't understand our brush fires, but somehow they looked upon the little, equations and algorithms and decided that this is something that we should reduce. That puts Arizonans in danger. Also, I'm against the fact that they're just arbitrarily firing veterans that have been serving this country, both in the military and now as government workers, and without any notice, even though they were qualified people, even though they had served their country dutifully, they were given just massive layoffs, and that's affecting them personally and their families. We can find efficiencies. There are ways that we can actually cut waste, but we should do it in a thoughtful manner that protects the American citizen every day and make sure that these workers are taking care of themselves. At the same time, we could do it while saving taxpayer money. But the way that these guys are doing it, these DOGE boys, Elon Musk are doing it, they're doing it correctly, and they're only doing it so they could give tax cuts to the very, very, very rich, and the American taxpayer themselves are the ones that are hurting.
TSMC has a very large footprint in Arizona. They are a manufacturer of computer chips, microchips. President Trump announced another $100 billion investment. I'm not sure if that's all brand new money or money that was sort of scheduled and enhanced, but you had to have been at least nominally supportive of that.
Now they're supportive. Are you kidding? I'm excited. Like, this is a great Arizona and American story. I'm not going to root against, Arizona and the United States because Trump is in charge. This is a great, great thing. They're going to add 3 more fabrication of microchip plants in Arizona, a total of 6. 40% of all the chips in this country are going to be built in Arizona. I am proud that I worked on the CHIPS Act when it was under Biden. I'm proud that I'm going to work on this under Trump. Of course, this is a great story for America, and we should all be proud that this is happening.
How do you evaluate President Trump's moves to stop the flow of illegal immigrants into our country, specifically Arizona?
Look, I'm very happy that we've seen some of the flows of illegal immigration crossing across the border at an all-time low. This is something that we've been talking about as Democrats. This is why when I was in the House and still in the Senate, I've been advocating for a comprehensive border security bill, because what we want to do is be able to continue these sustained gains that started under Biden and are continuing under Trump. What's happening right now is a good thing. The amount of illegal border crossers is at an all-time low. But in order for us to be able to sustain that, it requires us to actually have a long-term plan how that looks. Right now, we're spending a lot of money. Border Patrol, ICE, they're actually borrowing money from other parts of DHS right now in order to pay for what's happening right now. So why don't we work together? Why don't Republicans, Democrats, and the president work together to have a long-term plan about how to keep the illegal immigrants coming across the border and actually figure out what to do with the people that have been here for long term, the people that are the dreamers, or the sons and daughters of American citizens, or the parents of American citizens that have no criminal records, that we should find a way for them to actually be part of this American dream. There's a way to do this all. But I think it is a success, and I think Democrats and Republicans should recognize that lower border crossings, illegal border crossing, is a good thing for this country.
I wonder if I could ask you, Senator, about the FAA and about the Park Service. Both have been affected by some of these reductions in the federal workforce. Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix is the gateway to your tourist industry throughout the state, and National Park Service employees are crucial to several national parks in and around Arizona. What is your level of concern as we move towards spring and summer, and what is clearly a big part of your tourist season there?
Well, we are actually now in our high season. People are coming to Arizona right now because it is beautiful in Arizona. Can't say the same for other parts of the country, which is why it's a big draw. You know, people are coming for spring training, but we also have, you know, abundant national parks and forests that people come and visit. The Grand Canyon, for example, right now is a big draw to people. But because of this president's cuts and Elon Musk's arbitrary cuts, the Grand Canyon right now is having difficulty getting people through the gates, picking up garbage. If you get in, you know, in some type of injury or in trouble in the Grand Canyon, it may take longer for someone to get to you. That's a problem. I already talked to you about the problem when it comes to forest fires, and there's no investment right now in cleaning out and clearing out the underbrush for our national forest. That's very dangerous. You know, Sky Harbor is now becoming one of the most busiest airports in the country. And when you have, unfortunately, some FAA controllers that are being released, relieved, or fired and not being replaced, that causes backlogs, which was already existent even before these arbitrary cuts. You know, it's important for us to understand you can have cuts, but you don't have to do it in a stupid way. What Elon Musk and his people are doing, and with the approval of Donald Trump, it's just dumb. It's stupid. It's arbitrary. At the end of the day, it's going to only cost the government more. It's not going to actually save us any money.
Arizona's freshman Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego. Thank you very much, sir.